The way that we receive pleasure, the way that we receive love, and the way that we allow ourselves to receive help or abundance are all interconnected. They all exist within the triangle of self-worth. Now, I know you've heard so many times, in order for you to attract in more of what you desire, you must become what you desire. The funniest part about this is you are already these things. You are already love, you are already abundance, you are already presence and pleasure and joy. You are already all of these things. So how do we stray away from which we already are? Through limiting beliefs, through our family members, society, all these external outward forces that really try to force us into a box of shoulds. We should be this way, we should do this, we should be that, we should become whoever they want us to be. And in that space of should breeds a lot of shame for who you really are, for the things that really light you up, for the ways that you really yearn to unconditionally accept yourself. We learn to shame ourselves for the ways that we naturally are. And from that space of shame, then comes undeservingness and unworthiness. And then from those limiting beliefs, we start to push away the abundance, love, and pleasure that are naturally our birthright. We're going to be diving into how all these are connected, as well as how to begin to unblock these 3 areas of life in this video. And I'm super excited to dive in with you. So first off, if you're just now seeing me, if you've never met me before, my name is Corday and I help visionaries create a new earth. And right now I'm helping people, whoever watched this video, start to live an abundant life through being, embodying, and living as their purpose. There's nothing more that you have to do in order for you to invite in more money, love, and pleasure into your life. All that we have to shift into is the truest versions of ourselves. And from those spaces, that signal for what is naturally ours can actually find us. Get out a pen and paper. I have a whiteboard here, and I'm also gonna put some pictures here because if you know me, you know my handwriting is not that good, and that is okay, okay? So let's dive in, like so. And then we're gonna go and draw or write in these 3 pillars of life. Abundance at the top, love on the right, and pleasure on the left. Beautiful. Now, we already know from the beginning of this video that all of these exist within the triangle of self-worth. But how? How does money, love, and pleasure exist within the triangle of self-worth? Because in reality, these 3 different things really represent 3 areas of life that we must cultivate in order for us to unblock the literal avalanche of abundance that's waiting for us on the other side. So when it comes to abundance, this is really dependent on your self-value. Now, I want to start off this video talking about money. I want to start off this video really talking about the elephant in the room here, because money is one of the things that is the most, I would say, taboo and erotic topic when it comes to the spiritual industry. So many people want more freedom, more financial freedom. They want to build that beautiful healing center, or they want to buy that land, or whatever the case is. And the fact of the matter is, just believing is not going to get you anywhere. Beyond believing, beyond creating a tangible action-based step, what you have to start to do is start to see the value in your vision. Beyond just, I want this to happen, but start to see the value that this will bring to the world. Now, why is this important? Because one of the major reasons why we do not have the abundance that we really desire is because we are not living as we truly have been meant to live. We are not living within our purpose. When we come into this world, our Ori, our higher self, has a plan, has a destiny for us. And if you want to learn more about this, you already know Wealth on Purpose is free to download. Your Ori has a plan for your life. Every time that you stray off this path, when it comes to your divine purpose and when it comes to what you truly have been put here to do, you move away from the blessings that have your name on them. And so your purpose is not really difficult for you to find, but your purpose is really the call that never stops speaking to you. It's the thing that lights you up. It's the thing that gives you life. It's the thing that only you can bring to the world in the way that only you can do it. right? Your purpose is the thing that won't stop nagging at you. Something that comes through no matter what job you have, no matter what position you've chosen to occupy. This purpose continues to come through, and it is an energy, not a title, meaning it's a specific energetic frequency that you literally bring to the collective. Now, when you really see your purpose as something that is valuable, I would even argue invaluable, it has no dollar amount on it, and there's no ending to the value that it can bring to the world, that's when we can really start to cultivate more abundance in our lives. Why? Because you're starting to de-pedestalize all the other systems that you may have forced yourself into because you did not believe that your purpose can fully support your life. That because you did not believe that your purpose can really pay your bills, that you not believe that your purpose can really help you achieve freedom in this life. The true freedom is you being able to have the liberty of time and the liberty of moving physically in this world how you wish to. But if you're at this moment in time where you know that there must be a change, the change is not going to be given to you from the external reality. The change is going to be given to you from how you see yourself and your own internal value. And so money is a very, 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 very important conversation we have to have here that everyone wants to ignore. But the fact of the matter is, when we do not value ourselves and we do not value the medicine and the purpose that we bring to this earth, we end up saying yes. We end up saying yes to programs, systems, all these other things that pull us in. I'm gonna go to corporate, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. I'm not saying that your purpose can't be in corporate, but I'm saying if you know your purpose is not there, then we need to start to move away from the things that you have just said yes to out of shame and start to feed into the purpose that has always been calling you and that's never gonna stop calling you. And so if you want this avalanche of abundance that really has your name on it, you have to start to see the value within yourself. And the only way to get to that space of true limitless abundance is to start to pour into the well within you that has no end. Your purpose is the well within you that has no end, because your Ori, your higher self, and the divine creator, Olodumare, they are the ones that gave you your purpose, and they exist in the realm of limitlessness. And so when you walk in your purpose, what really starts to happen is you are enacting as an embodiment of the divine. Your divine mission, your divine path is one that only you can walk. And on that path, the blessings that are for you will literally be magnetized towards you. But if you're having any financial problems, if you're having any money problems, right now is the time to start to ask, how have I been seeing myself as something that can be cast away, as something that can be ignored, as something that maybe has no value? Have I been quieting myself, making myself smaller in any ways? And how can I start to pour into myself in ways in which I can really start to feel grateful for the abundance that lives within, that is only given to me by the Creator, by my higher self, by my connection with Source? That is your purpose. And that's why self-value is linked with abundance here. And again, both of these being linked to self-worth. Now, let's go into love. And right under love, right, self-acceptance. Okay? So we have abundance here with self-value, then we have love with self-acceptance. When it comes to love, the only time that love can really exist is when it is given unconditionally. Okay? I want you to just take a moment and think about a time in which you felt this presence, this feeling of unconditional love. Maybe it was from a family member, maybe it was from a pet, maybe it was from literal nature. I know I feel unconditional love when I'm literally in the middle of a wave in the ocean. It's when I feel the most at home as a child of Yemoja as well. But when is the last time that you felt this pure unconditional love? You may have had romantic relationships, friendships, or whatever the case that you felt love in. But the times that we feel the most enveloped by this energy of love is when it's given unconditionally, regardless of judgment, regardless of how you're being presented, regardless of who's being presented to you, whatever the case is. When you are just allowed to exist and fully accepted in the totality of all versions and aspects of you that are right here, that is real love. Love doesn't have conditions. Love doesn't have judgments. Love doesn't have shoulds. Love is the opposite of shame. And love has no choice but to breed more of an energy of presence, because in that space of acceptance, there is no denying what is seen. And so the only time that love can really exist is when there is when there is an air of self-acceptance. And of course, acceptance inherently gives way to self-worth. Seeing and accepting all these aspects of you without judgment, you begin to see how they are valuable. Even these aspects of your shadow, even the things that you were taught to demonize within yourself, when you've chosen to accept these things, you can see these things as valuable aspects, as priceless pieces of yourself that should not be shunned or denied. And do you see how all of these things, and we haven't even gotten to pleasure here, but we will in a moment, but are you starting to see how all of these things are really this world of worth, of enoughness, really this world and the Svadhisthana. The Svadhisthana is the sacral chakra, and this is the space in which we come into more than enough. But until we come into a space of pure self-worthiness and deservingness and acceptance and trust, which we're about to talk about with pleasure, we cannot enter the space of more than enough money, more than enough love, and more than enough joyful, beautiful experiences in our lives. And so love here represents self-acceptance. And now go into your pleasure piece here. Pleasure represents self-trust. Now I want to just clarify as well, we have self in front of all these things: self-value, self-acceptance, and self-trust. But in reality, we can just mark this as value. We can mark this as acceptance, and we can mark this as trust, especially when we're talking about engaging with the universe here. So pleasure represents self-trust. Now, why is this? When we think about pleasure and we think about even sexual acts or things like this, orgasmic experiences, the only time they can happen truly is when we are fully present. The only time that they can happen truly is when we are fully vulnerable to the moment, to the person, to the environment, and we just allow ourselves to let go. Now, beyond this sexual eroticism, we can also think about the pleasurable experiences that life offers us through all these other avenues beyond that. And so when we're at a museum, we could only be moved by an art piece if we truly allow ourselves to be present with the emotions that it's invoking within us and the beauty that we're seeing in front of us. And so pleasure is really connected with presence. And the only time that we can really begin to cultivate a deep sense of presence is when we have cultivated a sense of trust within our own bodies and within our own environments. Within these two ends of the balance beam, then fully comes forth this presence within you that many times honestly is untouched. Now, why is that? Our power and our presence is untouched because we spend so much time in our lives running. We spend so much time in our lives running from ourselves. When you have been taught that you should not trust yourself, that your voice doesn't matter, when you have been taught that you deserve to wear a mask of shame, when you've been taught that there's something within you that just makes you lesser than for whatever reason, what ends up happening is we start to run from ourselves. And that cloak of shame is kind of used as a shield to shield us from the world. And it may feel good to hold this over us because we feel like nobody can see us. Nobody can see the thing that we shame ourselves for the most. But in reality, that cloak that you're putting over your eyes is also stopping you from seeing the world and being present within this world. And so what really is happening here is shame and a lack of self-worth pushes you to a place of distrust. Distrust within yourself, distrust within the environment, because you have learned that the environment is unsafe and you are unsafe. You reject yourself and you create this environment within yourself that says it is not safe for me to be me or else something bad will happen. And again, where do we learn these things but childhood, but family? And we're going to be talking about the 7 blocks and how to unblock them in just a moment here. But right now I'm covering pleasure as an aspect of trust because again, the only time that you can allow yourself to really experience all of the orgasmic experiences of life is when you fully trust yourself and the environment enough to really bring forth this untouched presence and power that exists within all of us. Self-trust, self-value, self-acceptance, all exist within self-worth, and you have to work equally on all of these three in order for you to begin to cultivate a new relationship with money, a new relationship with love itself, and a new relationship with desire and pleasure. You can begin to really live life. We have spent so much time in our lives running from life because we run from ourselves. We learn that there's something inherently wrong with us that causes us to run from ourselves, run from our gifts, run from our passions, run from our desires. And so then we end up living this shell of a life that is really half of what is possible for us because we're living under a shell of shame and shoulds. But when you begin to, number one, accept yourself, accept your vision, accept the things that people again have taught you to hate, really accept all these aspects of you, then you can really begin to value yourself, value all your unique gifts, value your quirks, value all those funny things that you do and all those beautiful visions that you have. And only from acceptance and value can you begin to truly trust yourself. That's when you can really move forward with action plans. That's when you can really move forward with making a change in your life, is when you accept, value, and fully trust yourself. And from that triangle comes the self-worth. Now, in the last aspect of this video, I want to talk about these 6 blocks that we all deal with when it comes to receiving more money, love, and pleasure, and how to begin to release them. But before we dive into that, if you're liking this video so far, you already know there's a free ebook that goes even deeper into this, and actually it's an audiobook. It's in my link. It's in the link right below. So we all know that we reflect our world and our world reflects us. You already know this, but let's dive even deeper into how this really manifests. So we have our inner world and we have our outer world, and so we can literally just draw a line here, and there's 3 aspects on each side of this that really stop us from cultivating the life that we truly desire. Now, each one of these blocks reflects each other, so we're gonna go through them in 2s. The first one is it can't be me and it can't be here. These are the 2 hardest. We have learned somewhere along the way that it cannot be us who receives more money. It can't be us who is truly unconditionally accepted. It can't be us that receives more of our pleasures and desires. And this is gonna be the root of your shame. The answer to this and how to begin to unblock it is by asking the question, what do I feel like is inherently wrong with me? What makes it harder for me than anybody else? It may be hard for you to begin to get to this answer, but that's why it's really important here that you begin to dive into neutral time. Now, this is when nothing is coming in, nothing is going out. After you finish this video, just have that question in the back of your head and allow your mind to speak to you. Observe your mind. And from this space of observation, not judgment, but just observation, you could begin to see this story that your mind has created on why it's hard for you to get money, love, or pleasure in your life. Now, from that space of shame, we really have to ask, when are the first times that we began to feel this shame? What truly caused this? And like a literal ball, you're gonna imagine that shame, or imagine those first scenarios that someone else taught you to shame yourself, and begin to imagine passing it back to that person who gave it to you. You have to realize that these are not your beliefs. These are not inherent things that are just ingrained within you. These are things that you were taught. They are not inherently right or wrong within anyone. The first level of thinking is this dualistic right or wrong, black and white thinking, but we have to realize that everyone's life unfolds in unique and different ways, and what is right for you or what is good for you is not good for everybody else, and vice versa. And so that being said, any judgments that anyone projects onto you are simply projected judgments of themselves. Any judgments that you have felt, you do not need to eat anymore. You can allow yourself to release by seeing them as not yours to begin with. Okay? That's number 1. Now, one of my favorite ones is it can't be here. This is the other end of the spectrum of this limiting belief. People love to say this, oh, in this economy, or the men right now are terrible, or there's no way that I can enjoy this when everything else is happening. If you don't learn how to fully be present with the current situations and start to see how beautiful things can come from whatever situation is happening, you won't be able to be present if all the conditions were perfect either. Your ability to look at something with eyes of curiosity, of seeing every limitation or seeing everything that's seemingly being a challenge to the thing that you desire, if you're able to see that thing as actually the way through and not the stopping point, not the roadblock, if you're able to see how you can maneuver whatever situation that you're in to create something beautiful, that's when you really start to create like a God. God creates with limitations. By seeing all the limitations as just aspects of style, of aspects of flair, of unique energy, there's nothing that stops God from creating. There will always be life. Now, the life that comes forth may change and may move and may be malleable to the environment, but there will always be life. We create like humans if we see our limitations as our roadblocks. When we start to see our limitations as the very reason why we're going through, that is when we begin to create like the Creator. Those are the first two blocks. It can't be me, it can't be here. Now, the second ones, forcing and not flowing, waiting and not creating. Oh my goodness. So these are interchangeable here, but these are two of my favorite ones as well. People love to wait. You like to wait for your turn. You like to wait for a savior. You like to wait for a viral moment. You want to wait for the right person, or you're waiting for that right opportunity or that right job, or you're waiting to feel good and pleasurable and present when you finally go on that vacation. But the fact of the matter is, when we wait and we wait and we wait for our circumstances to change in order for us to feel different, we will never achieve the feelings that we desire, because those feelings come from within. They are not created from any specific situation. They're not created from the perfect circumstance or the perfect conditions. They are created whenever you decide to create them, whenever you decide to change your definitions. Your mind has definitions and limitations, and I can feel like this when I have this, when I'm doing this, when I'm doing that. But in reality, if you allow yourself to be fully present and you decide to cultivate those feelings in this very moment, and you stop waiting for the perfect scenario to happen, what ends up happening is you magnetize the money, love, and pleasure that you desire into your life, because you become those things before they even seemingly get here. But in reality, they're waiting to find you. So that is waiting and not creating. Now, forcing and not flowing. This is my favorite one. I feel like I'm saying this about every single one. This is one of my favorite ones, merely because of the fact that a lot of spiritualists like to say that you must be consistent, that consistency is amazing, and I agree that consistency is amazing, but what I also feel is that being consistent for consistency's sake is just insanity. You have to repeat results, not processes. And what that really means is you have to really begin to ask yourself, what has been working for me and what hasn't? What feels good for me and what doesn't? What feels like it's natural for me / what maybe just will require a little bit more work. But here we have to begin to fine tune the difference between misalignment and hard work. And when something is just hard work, it's invoking something within you. Maybe it's invoking more confidence. Maybe it's invoking more authenticity. Maybe it's invoking less of a feeling like everyone's watching you. That's going to be hard. But when it's misaligned, it's requiring something within you that you simply don't have, or this doesn't feel like a fit for your authentic expression. And when you're able to distinguish those two, you can really distinguish if you are forcing or flowing. And being consistency for consistency's sake is just going to lead you to insanity. Always check in with yourself. Always ask, in the path that I'm on to receive more abundance or more love or more pleasure, does it really feel like me, or does it feel like something that just doesn't really fit? And that is forcing and not flowing. Now, the last two here on this chart are going to be, I'm a bad person if I have this, and bad things will come from this. When it comes to money, when it comes to love, when it comes to pleasure, all those things, there is a story that we have been telling ourselves of why we shouldn't have it. We all have a story of why we shouldn't have what we want. We look at social media, we look at all these things on the internet, and we tell ourselves that we shouldn't even want it because we would have to turn into someone who we are not in order to receive it. But the fact of the matter is, you're going to get money, more financial stability, more financial freedom the way that only you can. You will attract in your relationships in a way that only you can, the relationships that are truly meant for you. And you will really be able to be fully present in a way that only you can be. You will be able to receive your pleasure and really cultivate better, more pleasurable, more juicy experiences when you truly have gotten in tune with yourself. There's no one way that you have to receive these things that we desire. We tell ourselves that we have to become something else because inherently we feel like who we are is not enough for what we desire. So we block it all out, all of it together. And we tell ourselves we don't even want it. That's the craziest part. When you realize that you don't have to become a bad person and nothing bad is gonna happen if you receive these things. And you start to realize, where did I get these stories from? Who told me that I have to become a terrible person? Who told me that all people who have financial stability are bad? Who told me these things? And how can I begin to give this story back? That's when you can really tap into this unblocking of this block, right? So the last aspect here is bad things will come from this. Now, this usually stems from your family or your parents telling you about a terrible situation that happened with a family member or with somebody else, and bad things happened when they won the lottery, or bad things happened when they got into that marriage, or whatever the case is. And then we create the subconscious story within our minds that bad things will come from having what we desire. Again, in reality, the only things that will come from you having the things that are truly your heart's desire are a more amplification of your own energy. The freedom that you have will just simply allow you to become more of yourself. The love that you possess within will only allow you to become more of yourself. And the pleasure that you're allowing yourself to experience in this life will only allow you to become more present. And so these stories that people have told you, that you have somehow adopted and you now think are your own, are not yours. And you have to begin to realize that there's more to life than telling yourself that you don't want these things, that you don't want financial stability, that you don't want love, that you don't want pleasure. You're denying these things within yourself because deep down you feel like maybe you're not good enough. It boils down to self-worth, worthiness, deservingness, and feeling like you're truly enough. And you have decided that you will give back these stories and you begin to cultivate a deeper relationship with the divine feminine, and you begin to heal these mother wounds, these wounds of rejection, these wounds of shame, these wounds of self-rejection and just shunning yourself. What begins to happen is you begin to open up your energy to become more receptive, not only to yourself, but also to the world, to your environment, to the things around you, so that you can receive the abundance, love, and pleasure that's already trying to find you. And so that this can literally manifest in your life and not just in your meditations. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you're ready to dive even deeper, there is a free ebook, Wealth on Purpose, in the link. And you already know that 7 C's begins on February 27th. This is a deep dive to releasing all money blocks, all pleasure blocks, and all love blocks to receiving the love that you truly desire as well. We're moving through this transformation, not just through a practical approach of how to receive more money, love, and pleasure, but also from the deep, beautiful ancient teachings of Yemoja, Oshun, and Mami Wata, we'll be learning from throughout the course as well. So I can't wait for you to dive into that, and I'll see you in Wealth on Purpose. Odapo.